You never really see darkness until you've seen it from 30,000 feet over the Red Sea. It's not black, it's weight. It presses against the windows, against your chest. Every light you see down there feels like a mistake, like something too fragile to survive in that kind of night. We were running a standard refuel sortie that evening, or at least that's what the flight plan said. No one ever calls it routine, not out there. Yemen airspace doesn't have routine. It has windows, narrow, unpredictable, sometimes closing before you even realize you're in one. Our call sign was Ironbone 24, 4 souls on board. But that night it might as well have been one. When you're sitting in that cockpit, strapped in with the oxygen mask tight, every thought, every fear, every prayer, it is just you, and the sound of those 4 engines trying their best not to stutter. I was 26, been flying tankers for 3 years. I used to think of us as background players. You know, not the ones dropping ordnance, not the ones in dogfights, just the flying gas station, the unsung logistics wing, but somewhere along the way I realized nobody gets home without us. You don't win air wars with missiles, you win them with reach. And we were the reach. That night, the mission brief was clean. 2 F-15Es coming off a run near Marib, short on fuel heading back to base in Djibouti. We were to rendezvous over the Red Sea corridor, refuel them mid-flight, and escort them out. 6 hours up, 6 down. Simple math. Until the math broke. I remember checking the instruments. Everything looked fine. Altitude steady, fuel balance good. Then, on the radar, a pulse. A blink that shouldn't have been there. Could have been noise, maybe reflection from the mountains near Tais. But the pattern was too sharp. Old Soviet radar systems have a fingerprint. They breathe differently on the scope. You can tell. You just know. And that's when it started. The silence. It's funny. People think danger is loud. Sirens, alarms, shouting. No. The real kind of danger. It's quiet. It moves like fog. You don't hear it until it's already wrapped around you. I called it in. Nothing. Comms were getting patchy. The interference wasn't random. Someone was scanning, locking, maybe testing us. We pressed on anyway, because that's what you do. You don't turn around because something might go wrong. You fly the plan until it breaks. At 0200 hours, we reached the first contact point. The F-15s came in like ghosts. No lights, just shadows gliding beneath us. They flashed recognition twice, and I remember thinking, there's something so human about that. No words, no salute, just 2 quick flashes of light that say, we're here. We extended the boom. The first jet locked on clean. Fuel transfer smooth. 65,000 pounds moving from one bird to another in midair, over a war zone. It's one of the most precise dances in aviation. Every second of it feels like a lifetime. Then it happened. Radar warning tone. A sound that crawls straight into your spine. Missile lock, bearing east. I remember seeing the scope light up like a heartbeat. It wasn't a guess. They had eyes on us. We dropped altitude fast. Heavy aircraft don't dodge like fighters. You can't evade in a KC-135, you endure. We banked hard, engines screaming, flares out. Somewhere out there, a missile rose into that night like a star. It missed. Barely. The radar tone vanished, but the silence that followed was worse. You don't breathe right after a near hit. You don't celebrate. You just wait for the next one. We managed to refuel one of the F-15s completely. The second jet, call sign Viper 3, wasn't responding. Static, maybe low altitude, maybe damage, maybe fear. Then through the crackle, a broken voice. Fuel low. Bingo. Can't climb. That was it. No location, no tone. Just exhaustion. And that's when the decision came. Do we turn home or go find him? There's no manual for that moment. You can train for emergencies, for malfunctions, for missile evasion, but not for deciding whose life matters most right now. I looked at the fuel charts. If we went back inland, we'd risk falling short ourselves. But if we didn't, that pilot was a dead man. So I turned the yoke east. We flew back toward the mountains. I could feel my heartbeat sync with the engines, 4 steady thumps against my chest. I kept telling myself, it's just numbers, altitude, speed, coordinates. But it wasn't. It was instinct, and fear pretending to be courage. The turbulence hit first, then the static, then the smell of metal and sweat. My hands were shaking, but you never show it. You move like a machine because that's what keeps you alive. At last, the faintest blip appeared on radar. Low, too low. He was losing altitude fast. I adjusted course, throttled forward, and started the descent. At that point, we were well inside hostile range. I don't remember breathing for 5 whole minutes. The first thing I saw was light, a dull orange flicker in the clouds, then his jet, wings steady but sluggish, trailing smoke. I'd seen birds fly that way when they're hit, still flying, but dying. We lined up the boom. It was like trying to thread a needle while someone's aiming a rifle at your back. I got within 500 feet. The wind shear was brutal. I had to hold her steady. One slip, and we'd collide. He came in too fast at first, then slowed, wobbling. You could almost feel his panic through the air. But then, the connection locked. Fuel started to flow. It asked the most beautiful sound in the world, the low hum of life coming back into another aircraft. I remember staring at the gauge. Every pound of fuel was another heartbeat. And in those few minutes, nothing else existed. Not the war, not the risk, not the world. Just 2 aircraft hanging in the dark, tied together by a single breath. Then came the alarm. Missile warning again. Closer this time. You don't think. You react. I dumped the transfer, slammed the throttles forward, and pulled up with everything that bird had. The missile missed by maybe 50 feet, maybe less. I felt the shock wave ripple through the tail. That kind of near miss doesn't scare you right away. It confuses you. It's too fast for fear. It's like hearing a door slam behind you that you didn't know was open. We climbed until the engine started to whine from strain, leveled off, checked systems. Everything, somehow, was still green. And below us, Viper 3 was still flying, alive. He radioed back a simple word. Thanks. That was it. No call sign, no emotion, just thanks. And then, silence again. He turned west toward the base. We turned north. By the time we reached the coast, fuel was dangerously low. We were running on fumes. When we touched down at Djibouti, the ground crew ran up, expecting battle damage. All they found was dust. We'd burned through almost everything. 400 pounds of fuel left in the tanks. That's barely enough to taxi. When I climbed out of the cockpit, my legs wouldn't stop shaking. You don't notice tension up there. It waits for you. It hits when you touch Earth. They told me later that the pilot we de-refueled, Viper 3, made it back with less than a minute of fuel left. He'd landed safe. He was alive. That should have been enough to make me proud. But it didn't. I just felt empty. Because the truth is, heroism doesn't feel like glory. It feels like guilt you survived. You start replaying it. The sound of the alarm, the weight of the yoke in your hands, the decision that could have killed your crew. And you wonder, was it bravery? Or was it luck dressed as purpose? I didn't talk about that night for years. Not because of secrecy, but because words cheapen it. How do you describe the sound of your own fear echoing inside a metal shell 10 miles above Earth? They gave me a commendation later. Pinned a medal on my chest, said I'd done something exceptional. I smiled for the photo, but medals don't weigh nearly as much as memories do. Sometimes when I'm up late, I still hear it. The fuel transfer hum. That slow, steady pulse that meant another pilot would see sunrise. And then the silence that followed, stretching longer than it should. It's funny, I used to think flying was about control. Turns out it's about surrender. You surrender to the sky, to fate, to your own fear, and somehow you keep going. Years later, I met a young pilot during a stateside training exercise, call sign Viper 3, same one. He didn't recognize me at first. Didn't have to. He just said, "You're Ellis, right? You were the tanker that night." I nodded. He smiled, a quiet, humble thing. Then he said something I never forgot. He said, "Did you know I almost ejected before you showed up?" I didn't know what to say. He continued, "When I saw your lights break through that haze, I realized somebody still believed I was worth saving. And that's when it hit me. What we do up there isn't about fuel. It's about faith. Faith that someone will come for you when you're falling, even if they shouldn't. I don't fly anymore. But every time I hear a jet cut through the clouds, I look up. I think about that night, about how the darkness wasn't trying to kill us. It was testing what we die for. And I still remember the moment we turned back into danger. Not out of orders, not out of duty, but out of something older than both. Something you can't write in a mission report. A simple truth that only those who've flown that close to death understand. Sometimes, doing the right thing means taking off with full speed when every instinct tells you to run. Silence. Then the low hum of engines fades into the wind.